Forum, and the group today are going to be sharing some of their experiences around the lockdown that we're currently in, giving us a bit of insight into their experiences. In today's discussion, we are joined by Dave, who works for Autism Hampshire, also on our Experts by Experience panel, and we have Lee with us today. We also have Deborah, and we have Luke, who have joined us for the discussion. So welcome everyone, thank you for joining us. And with the lockdown situation that we're currently in, it's obviously leaving lots of restrictions on people's lives and in not being able to leave the home perhaps as much as you normally would. And the lockdown's now been extended. So I'd like to ask you really the impact that that's had on you, the lockdown situation, and the changes and the impact that it's had on your normal routines. So can I start with you, Dave?
Yep, okay. Yeah, I suppose as an autistic person, you know, I get used to a certain transition from home to work, which in my case, because I don't drive, is cycling or using the train or a combination of both. I quite missed that to begin with. You know, I always felt that there was something missing, a missing piece in the day. I suppose also missing the kind of, I find it easier to get myself into a routine at work as well. You know, silly little things like arriving, having a glass of water, maybe having a brief sort of, you know, introductory chat with my colleague, and then getting down to work. And, you know, I've got certain ways of sort of drawing up what I need to do during the day. It's amazing what being in a different context that you don't associate with that level of work, although I have worked from home before briefly and in cafes and stuff. But when you've got to do it day in, day out, it takes quite a while to sort of settle down and get into that sort of routine and a change routine and get used to the idea that you're at home doing this stuff now, let alone transferring to different media and platforms for meetings and stuff. And so I think for a good couple of weeks, it just seemed quite chaotic. You know, I was being a member of a video meeting and then trying to get back to a bit of work. It seemed much more fragmented than it does at work, which seems strange because at work I'm always complaining about you being interrupted anyway, but it seemed like the level of interruption from my perception was that much greater. I was finding much more difficulty in concentrating on one thing, getting it finished, moving on to the next thing. I guess things have sort of settled down since then, so it's not too bad now. And I've sort of initiated a few little systems for just prioritizing stuff that needs doing. On the plus side, I mean, I'm just absolutely reveling in the quiet. It's helped by the good weather, but the fact that, you know, there's minimal traffic, minimal aircraft going overhead, that I can sit in the garden without being sort of disturbed by constant motorbikes going past and stuff like that. And I suppose on a slightly more profound level, I'm a sort of keen advocate of noticing the detail and the beauty that is in your local neighbourhood, rather than always driving off somewhere else to find it. And I mean, I'm guilty of that. Normally this time of year I'll be going to Wales, and I do miss that. But I have really enjoyed, you know, be it the garden that we're lucky enough to have, or going off and we've got, you know, a stretch of beach nearby and some woodland and stuff. But just getting an opportunity on a day-to-day basis of going for that walk and just being able to notice those subtle changes day to day, you know, without necessarily encountering loads of people. So that's kind of a brief resume of the pluses and minuses from my point of view.
Yeah, and for you, Lee, you would normally be working in an office, wouldn't you, in an office environment? So how have you found the adaptation to being at home 24/7?
So yeah, I work as a software engineer in a secure environment, and so the work that I'm able to do from home is limited because I'm not in that secure environment. Moreover, this came upon us very, very quickly because I suffer from mild asthma, and my employer took the view that put me in a higher risk category and consequently barred me from going in. So I've had to completely adjust my routines from always being working in the office in a secure environment to working from home, where I can only work up to a certain level of classification. It's taking a long time to settle into a routine. Another thing that I've found is that my sleep cycle has been completely disrupted, and only just now is it beginning to fall into some sort of reasonable pattern, particularly with, you know, having some time out during Easter. That kind of went completely haywire then. Another thing is that I've been working on internally funded work. So I'm answerable, if you like, to the company, but I've just switched on to customer funded work because we do contracts. And now I've got the responsibility to deliver value to the customer. That's altogether another level of responsibility. So those, if you like, are what I'm working through right now. But ultimately, I mean, obviously, when this first came upon us, there was the fear factor of, were we all going to die, you know, concern about our nearest and dearest. Now it's turned into more of a routine, that the immediate threat seems to be manageable, which is good. So it's a real mix, and I'd be really interested to hear other people's views as well.
How about yourself, Deborah?
So things that I found difficult during this time have been noises in the home, because I'm used to working from home, but I'm used to working from home with long periods of time with nobody in the house, and so it's deadly silent, and I can then control the amount of noise that's happening and where I can work. And just before lockdown, I lost my art studio as well, which my husband's kindly building me in the garden, which is really lovely, but it's not ready yet, and I don't actually have a sort of a space to go to where I can be completely on my own. I'm finding that really stressful, and so I've become incredibly hypersensitive to noise. So my noise hypersensitivity has gone up, and so I found myself, one of the things I do is drawing. I found myself drawing incessantly in the evenings, and until I'm literally falling asleep in bed, drawing and drawing and drawing to sort of get that energy out. I mean, it's in a form of stimming, really, because it's very repetitive patterns I'm doing, and that's the only way I'm coping with it. I don't have access to the library. That would be something I would have done in the summer holidays when the children were home. I'd have been able to go and spend some chunks of time in the library. So I can't do that, and I can't access the books I want. And also I'm having to kind of fit around everybody else's schedules. So my husband's sort of coming in and going out again, and then lunch and dinner, and when the children want to be fed. And it's sort of, I'm finding that really difficult, because I'll just sit down to do something or be really engrossed in something, a special interest or work, and then I'll have to be dragged away from that. And all of that then is making my hypersensitivity just like, when I don't usually have that at home so much, you know, so that's tricky. And I think what I have enjoyed in terms of being at home is pressure's off. You know, social pressure is completely off. That's wonderful. So, you know, there's a yin and yang to this. I do have fears for the future, you know, what's going to happen after lockdown. And one thing that I found helpful is structure. So I've been really trying to structure in allotted times that I will spend on work. So I'm going to spend this much time on work today. That's it. And I'm going to spend this much time on, you know, I don't know, doing something that makes me feel like I'm still part of the community. So it could be doing a community project that I was doing, volunteering for. Maybe I contribute to that, or just contact people. I don't know. Actually trying to sort of like get this stuff out into some kind of schedule and structure for the week has helped. But the hypersensitivity thing is tough, and you know, a glass of wine and drawing is the only way I seem to be able to deal with that at the moment.
It's like you say, you can try to schedule and chunk as much as of your day, but there is more uncertainty, isn't there, in the environments now that it's changed with all the distractions around. It may not necessarily go always as you anticipate it to do. So thanks, Deborah. Luke, I know that you're also working at home now, having been full-time working for the council. How are you finding it?
Yeah, so I live in a studio flat on my own. So working from home, I found the first week or so, I had to really kind of drill it into myself to be really disciplined and just get on with the work, you know, with distractions around me sort of thing. I like it how things are close to hand, such as like, you know, the kettle, if you want to make yourself a coffee or a tea. it's quite nice as well, like just like kind of staying in your pajamas or just a quick change before you begin your work. For me, the work's kind of as busy or close as being as busy at home like it would be in the workplace, really. So, you know, having a sort of 8:30 till sort of like 5 job, to me, it feels like, you know, sort of 65% of my time or something is taken up with work. So I quite appreciate the chill time in the evening, but also at the weekend and during the evenings, I'm just getting out and doing exercise, you know, running and walking and shopping when needed. And I meet my parents like halfway in Hursley, like my dad or both my parents together, and like I might get some food from them or something like that, just to see them, but it's from a sort of a bit of a distance away, like in a car park. And then I went and saw my parents weekend just gone, so I'm really close to my parents, so that was nice. And you know, they're in sort of like the more vulnerable group, so when I did go over, I had to keep my distance to the point where I was out in the garden most of the time. I was keeping my distance from them. And you know, I feel quite healthy, but I feel more concerned for like others that I know, you know, people in the family and other elderly people, people that I might know, more so concerned for them than I am myself, because I'm younger and I feel quite healthy. But yeah, so that's
so does that cause you a lot of anxiety, Luke? Do you feel very anxious as well about the current situation? Is that adding to your anxieties?
I mean, I kind of appreciate working from home at the moment. I quite like it because it's a bit of a luxury. Never been used to that before. I mean, not seeing family members, not seeing friends, that is tough. I'm really missing my tennis club as well, and the people at my tennis club, because I love playing tennis. So I've hit a little bit in my flat, but kind of that's been minimal and in a short area of space sort of thing. So I'm really missing that. But I'm still finding I'm able to do the things that I did before lockdown, like the exercise. But I do have to get out because being in too much wouldn't be great. And obviously it's really sad what's going on at the moment. But I do see, you know, light on the horizon that that will come out of this stronger. And whether that's a month away or whatever, that I think when people get there, they'll just really appreciate what they've got, and you know, realizing that people don't have to be so reliant on their phones, and just the interaction between people during this period of time has been refreshing to see. The fact as a community, people just want to talk, say hi when on a walk, which is great to see. So I'm just trying to get the balance of going out, but also having chill time at home, really, which I need sometimes after work day.
Yeah, I guess, you know, it's forcing us, this lockdown, it is forcing us to make adjustments and changes to how we do so many things, isn't it? Like you're saying, social interaction is one of those. From the sounds of it, it's actually working out quite well for you to be able to keep those social interactions over video, over telephone calls, from distances and things like that. We, as an organisation, are contacted by lots of families in particular, actually, who are experiencing quite high anxieties at this time. Obviously, the schools are closed at the moment. Not all children are accessing school for the families that are contacting us. And, you know, we're asked for lots of advice around what should they be doing in the home right now to support their children or their young adults to manage this situation. So do any of you have any advice or ideas around what you have found useful and what you think could be useful for families at times like this?
I think just going, oh, sorry, Luke, are you going to say something?
Yeah, I'll go in a bit.
You sure? No.
Yeah, honestly, go for it.
It's that word should, I think, is sometimes problematic.
Yeah.
It's taking into account that the children are autistic. In some cases, not going to school, it has to be said, is going to be a massive relief. You know, that it doesn't mean that they don't want to learn anything, but getting away from the hectic social sensory bombardment, you know, in some cases, unfortunately, being around a lot of people who really don't understand them, in some cases being sanctioned, punished for stuff that they really can't help in an environment that's so aversive, is probably a massive relief. But coupled with that, as we've all said for ourselves, there is the loss of structure, which is a real killer. So you know, if you're not careful, you end up with somebody maybe who, for example, knows that, I don't know, lunch happens at 12 o'clock, but that's the only milestone they've got in their day. And so they don't get up until 10 to 12 or whatever every day, because otherwise, you know, they're up and they're kind of free floating and there's no shape to the day and they just feel kind of lost. I mean, that's not for everybody. Some people will think, whoopee, I've got really strong special interests, I can plug into that kind of thing, you know, be it computer games, art, music, whatever it is, and not having the stresses of school, and that suddenly that innate creativity might flourish, you know, after a bit. So I think it's about, you know, not panicking about the fact the kids aren't at school, you know, and then taking the drastic measure of, well, we've got to reproduce the school day at home. So they still have to get up at 7:30. They still have to, you know, be up and dressed and breakfasted, and then we'll have a regime of kind of very sort of pedagogic stuff throughout the day. It's kind of almost treating it, I suppose, like a lot of people treat homeschooling. So there'll be a more natural flow to it, and we'll experiment with a few bits. We'll create a structure, but that structure will consist of, you know, initially maybe just making it like a skeleton schedule of things that absolutely have to be done at a particular time, otherwise they just aren't going to happen. And these are going to be really basic things. Then things that have to be done but not within a particular time scale, so the person can sort of think, well, I'd prefer to do that in the afternoon rather than the morning, and then populate the rest of the stuff, you know, and then things that I want to do and see where they fit in. You know,
That's
there's going to
I followed myself for my own thing.
Okay.
Followed that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't ask me whether I did.
So it's not child specific, really. It's really good advice thinking about structuring the day.
Yeah.
I followed Dave's thing, but my son, as I was trying to just sort of get to just tidy his room a bit in exchange for some kind of reward, which was actually sort of starting to think about his birthday. But I mean, yeah, I agree with Dave in that you shouldn't, I think, sort of, it's very early. This is a very early on, you know, and I should imagine that a lot of children have still feeling like this is a bit of a holiday, and actually just like leaving them to have space, particularly I know as an adult having the house really busy and not having that space. I'd absolutely love to be a child at home right now, being able to spend all my time in my bedroom. It's just like it would be amazing, because I would be in that bedroom with all my stuff, you know, just drawing and doing what I want to do. So I think with an adult then intervening and trying to take that away from you at this time, I could imagine would be incredibly stressful. But I think, like Dave said, there's this thing that, you know, what should parents be doing? What should we be doing? How do we get our child to do this? I actually think, you know, particularly for my child, it's be like, back off, just back off. and you know, almost wait for the child to come to you or to look for signs, you know, but don't jump in to try and you know.
Those signs sometimes might be, you know, there's a bit of a delicate balance, because sometimes, I mean, I can remember as a child getting into this sort of frame of mind during holidays. Sometimes I was really looking forward to it, but then it was kind of like, what am I going to do? You know, although I had lots of interests, and there were times when people could suggest all kinds of things verbally to me, and I'd be kind of like, oh, that sounds boring. No, I haven't got enough time to do that. Oh, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to do it now, kind of thing. You know?
Yeah.
And creating that sort of structure so you can just give it a shape rather than just purely verbal stuff, I think is quite, without being too rigid, it's quite important.
Just to cut in quickly, I know, Lee, you've got experience with younger people accessing university.
Yeah, that's right. So my youngest son is 19, and he's come home from university and he's not able to go back. So he's having to adjust from, you know, the university life, which is not just about the teaching, but about the whole life, learn to cope with, you know, on your own in a supportive environment. It's a nice stepping stone, if you like, into adulthood. So he's now He's now come home and he can't go back. So he's having to adjust to online learning. And now, of course, the term is just starting again. So we're just going to see how that actually sort of washes out, if you like. One of the nice things is the university is waiving his rent, which I think is amazing that the universities have actually done that. And I know that for some people, that's not the case, particularly those who are with a private landlord. And that's a really difficult situation, both for the tenant and for the landlord as well. And I know the universities are really struggling financially as well, because it's a big source of income, the Halls residents' rent. So everything is very much up in the air. And I think, we've had the shock of this suddenly coming upon us. And we've now gone through the reaction phase, and then sort of feeling ourselves all over to see if we've still got all our limbs, to actually now into more of where we're getting into a routine, and we're beginning to learn some coping strategies. And now we need to move on to sustainability. Is what we're doing sustainable? How long can we let the kids, sort of laze out in their rooms? Are we too early or too late yet to move into the next phase? And I think that's the point where we are, is from the initial shock moving into sustainability. We're not yet into the end game with this. And I think we need to scope our concerns. It's okay not to carry everybody else's burdens around you. It's okay to say, I just have to worry about me right now, or my family right now. So don't feel guilty, scope your concerns, and try not to carry much more than you need to right now. And then we'll see where we are in a week's time.
Yeah, that's really good advice, I think, to be honest, because it's such a fastly changing situation, isn't it? So it's very difficult to be planning too far into the future. We almost do need to make sure that what we're doing now is working for now, but whilst being conscious that that could change in the future. We need to be adaptable to that as well. How about yourself, Luke? Do you have any thoughts or advice to be giving to other people struggling at home?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is just very quickly that I think kids will like being at home because they'll have people around them that will say understand them, appreciate them. Although obviously sometimes being around somebody too long, or some people too long, you do need your own space at the same time. But to be around loved ones, what have you, is a good thing. But I was just going to say, like, little games to be done around the home is good, to get the exercise in regularly, whether that's inside or outside. Big shout out quickly to the Joe Wicks videos that go out every day. You can catch up with them on YouTube. They're really good. So that's something that can be done as a family. Just Joe Wicks into YouTube and you find it. And I think it's just being creative, like, arts and crafts, having a bit of fun time, whether that's, doing accents together, what have you. But it's going to give families, kind of sit around and chat. And also I was just going to say finally that I know with people on the autism spectrum that there's like kind of special lighting lamps that you can get that go different colors, and that can be very therapeutic for somebody who's on the autism spectrum, particularly a child. And also we can always send links out for it, but there are YouTube like videos of like backgrounds where it's like playing music and there's like a particular like landscape or something that can help you get to sleep. So that's practical for adults and for children. It's quite calming, and especially it's helpful at this time, the climate we're going through, for getting off to sort of sleep or just put you in a calm place, really.
Yeah, I think that's really good, and actually it draws this conversation to an end quite nicely, because it could lead on to a future recording that we could be making around some of those other strategies to support people with their well-being, relaxation, feeling safe, secure at this time. So thanks, Lee, that's really good for a future. And of course, Lee's just put on a chat to me to always consider that if children are bored at home, then there's always chores to be doing. But of course it is also an ideal time to focus on some of those life skills, isn't it? So those things that you could enjoy doing together, like the baking, like the housework, but things that you can help teach people their independent skills and preparing them for the future as well. So that's a really good comment. So we're going to draw this to an end for today. Thank you very much to Dave, to Lee, to Deborah and to Luke for joining us for the discussion.
Thank you.
We will be back for a different topic for next week to post again. And until then, we'll see everyone then. Keep safe. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
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 Okay, that's